Welcome to Talent Tuesday. I'm Ken Schmidt, CEO and founder of TurningPoint Executive Search and the Sales and Marketing Leadership Alliance. This month, we're going to talk about counteroffers and a little bit different perspective on the pros and cons of counteroffers. If you do find yourself in a situation where one of your key employees is leaving, before you get to the point of extending a counteroffer, have a very frank dialogue with that individual. Find out exactly what it is that's motivating them to make that change. It could be something well beyond your control in their personal life, beyond compensation, beyond management, and something having to do with their spouse or their family. But it's really important at that point to figure out what it is that's driving that person to make that change and figure out whether or not there is anything you can do from your side to alleviate that concern and perhaps retain that employee. In most cases, you won't be able to retain that employee and ultimately they'll be deciding to move on. However, at that point, your job as an organization, as a manager, as a leader in the community is to make that departure as easygoing as possible rather than making it confrontational. I've heard story after story about individuals that have left a company, and as they leave, as they give notice, their former manager is making things very difficult. It's a very blaming type of situation. They end up really getting the person upset, and they just validated the reason that the person decided to leave the company in the first place. And trust me, chances are pretty good you're going to cross paths again with that individual, whether it's because you live in a small community or because your industry and sector is pretty tight-knit. So you want to do whatever you possibly can to make that departure with that employee amicable, respectful, and professional. You also want to think about the fact that you can probably find some good referrals from that individual because they know the job very, very well. They know the culture, the style of the organization. So don't be afraid to ask them who they might know that might be a good fit for that role as well. And finally, you want to keep the door open. You never know what might happen down the road. They may leave the organization, go to a competitor or somewhere else and get some really great skills that you could then use again in your organization 6 months, 10 months, 12 months, 5 years down the road. So if you leave that door open and make it a professional departure and separation, odds are you can bring that person back in later on and they can bring even more skills to your organization. So again, keep in mind, no matter what's going on out there, counteroffers probably aren't the best way to use your time, but do what you possibly can to avoid that in the first place by having open communication and dialogue with your employees. And if you do find yourself in a situation where someone's leaving, keep it professional, respectful, and leave the door open. Thanks so much for listening. If you have any questions, please contact us through our website. We look forward to seeing you next month on Talent Tuesday.